friends, welcome back for another October Daily Process video. In today's video, I am going to be putting together story number 4 using the design prompt of pattern paper. So that is what the slip that I pulled out of my jar yesterday said for me to use on my layout today. So what I decided to do was to pull out a wide variety of pattern papers that went together really well and had kind of a spooky, textured, grungy type of feel. Then I used an outline stamp that I have. This is the Max Outline Small from Carrie Bradford Studio, and I stamped onto those papers in either this Moonlight White, Brilliance White ink, or the Inky Black from Studio Calico. So the black ink I tried to use on as many papers as I could, and then I used the white when I knew the black wouldn't show up. Once I had my full title for today's page stamped out onto those different pattern papers, I fussy cut all of them out, and then now I have them set to the side ready to add onto the feature of my page today. So the pattern paper really plays the largest part in the different alphabets or the different letters that I'm using to create my title, which is I Will Sleep When I Am Dead. And so this story for today is primarily about getting very little sleep over the last 2 months, just life being very busy, work being very busy, and that leading itself to very, very little sleep. Definitely feeling pretty tired this week and hoping for a weekend of rest ahead. So I have my title there in the tray, and my title is going to go on top of this interactive element that I used my silhouette machine to cut out. This is going to be a tombstone. Now the tombstone itself, I found a free vector image online, and I pulled that into Photoshop and into Silhouette to create all of the pieces I would need to recreate the tombstone using the dark gray and the light gray textured cardstock. You'll see here in a little bit as I build the tombstone how it's all going to look on the front side, which is where I'm going to add my title, almost like a sentiment that you would see etched into a tombstone. On the back side, I printed off my journaling, which takes over the top half of the tombstone, and the bottom I have a blank spot that I'm going to add a photo to. Now I didn't take any photos necessarily of myself. The photo that I'm including is not one that I would consider quote unquote a beautiful picture. What it is it's going to be a picture of my planner sitting on my desk. And my planner has just loads in it of everything that I need to get done. So lots of to-do lists, lots of check boxes and check marks and all of those types of things. I felt like that was a pretty good way of depicting this particular story. So with the journaling on the back side, I have that adhered. I trimmed any of the excess that came onto the front. Now I am building the front side of the tombstone. So there is a frame part, there's a centerpiece, and then there are 2 rectangles that go at the bottom of the tombstone to make it look like there are multiple steps or multiple layers of cement at the bottom. So the darker part, the darker gray cardstock, is made to look like the shadows where the lights would hit the steps, if that makes sense. And I think it looks really cool. It achieves a look that I super love. With the tombstone done, the next thing I'm going to do is look at a couple of different embellishments that I am considering adding to my background paper. The background paper is here. It's this one. It is a kind of watercolor looking gray. It almost looks like a smoky, foggy night sky, and then it's got white stars with different levels of opacity. So it's just this really pretty, again, grungy looking background. That's what I'm going to keep my tombstone on top of. At the very bottom, I trimmed out, or I cut out, again using my silhouette, this strip of grass. And I made it black because I wanted this to look like it was at night when there wasn't a lot of light. So I stitched around the sides and the bottom of that grass, and I also did a double stitch on the side. So there's 2 lines of stitching on the right hand side of the page because I am eventually going to hole punch that side to bind it into my book. I was concerned I might punch through the original stitching and ruin the pocket, so that's why I wanted to make sure it was reinforced with a second line of stitching. That's going to become a small little, almost a little notch area for this tombstone to go into. It is a pocket, but it's not super sturdy for holding the tombstone in there long term, which is why I am also going to add this small clear sticker Velcro dot to the top of the tombstone. So now it'll stay adhered onto the page. I don't have to worry about it falling out or anything like that over time. Okay, so we've got the pocket portion of my page, and I've also got the tombstone. Next, I want to look at how I'm going to decorate the tombstone. One of the things I considered was taking this little tag, which is a tag from a soap bottle that I had purchased last year, and I took the tag out, or I clipped it off and added it into my ephemera pieces, my die cuts to use for a later time. Never used it last year, so I still have it left over. I thought about putting that in the top portion of the tombstone to act as like a skull that you might see at the top of a tombstone or something along those lines. I ultimately will end up not using it because I feel like the scale is off. It needs to be a little bit bigger. I have an even larger skull right here, and this one felt too big. I needed something in the middle of those. Didn't have anything in my stash, so I'll come up with a different thing to place at the top of the tombstone instead. I also trimmed out that kind of wispy looking ghost from a tag that I've had for a couple of years. I believe that was from the Halloween market collection from Cartabella a couple years back. I trimmed that out, and I'm going to add it behind the tombstone. So it looks like this ghost is coming out from behind the tomb. And right now I have it on the right-hand side. I'm ultimately going to move it to the left-hand side because the ghost itself is angled in such a way that it just makes a little more sense for it to go on the left. With these ephemera pieces sort of kind of placed, I'm able to at least play around with where they're going to go. I decided the next thing I needed to do was go ahead and put my title on top of the tomb. So I have it all on there where it says, "I will sleep when I am dead." Then for the top portion, I also went through my stash and found this spider web, which I feel like kind of fits the top of that tomb pretty darn well. And that's ultimately what I'm going to go with is the spider web, and I'm also going to add my numbers 04 to the top. I really loved the look of the bat that you can see at the top of the tombstone as well. I think the look of it goes very well with the patterns and the colors and just the texture of this layout, but I struggled figuring out how to get it on here without making it feel super cluttered. So I will decide to forego the bat on this layout. I also pulled out those 2 butterflies, which are, I don't remember what collection those came from, if it was something Tim Holtz or if it was something, actually, I think it might have been Heidi Swap where those came from her 2021 Halloween collection. There's a larger butterfly, a smaller butterfly. I felt like those could potentially go at the top, but then ultimately decided against those as well. They felt a little bit too large for that area. So here's where I'm deciding that yes, I want to put the spider web there, but can I also find a home for this bat? And then decided no, I cannot. So that is going to be put away. I I did consider putting the bat behind the tombstone, but it covered too much of it up, and I just really like the way the ghost looks instead. So we're going to go with ghost, and we're going to go with spider web. Then I thought, you know what? I have this black cat in my stash of die cuts as well. Maybe that can go in the bottom because I wanted something to make this have more balance. I think having that visual triangle where you've got something in the upper right hand, the upper left hand, and the lower right hand, it gives you that triangle look and makes this layout feel more balanced. So I am going to do that. I am going to place the cat in the bottom right hand corner. I will actually add it on top of the tombstone, and it will go behind the grass so that the top of the cat or the scale of the cat looks a little more realistic next to, well, I guess it's really not realistic because this tombstone is gigantic, but it just feels a little better having the cat up higher. So it's almost like it's sitting on the steps of the tombstone, if that makes sense. So we're going to do that. We're going to add the cat onto the tombstone. I'm going to add the spider web onto the tombstone as well. And then I will trim off the excess since that is a piece that's going to come in and out from the grass pocket. Once I have that done, I need to go ahead and trim out my my photo that's going to go on the back side. And I'm also placing these gold puffy stickers at the top that just says 04 to designate this as story number 4 in my October daily. I almost should call this my October stories album, but my October daily album. For me, my October daily album is a daily album because it's something that I'm working on daily. It doesn't necessarily mean that every day I'm telling a story from that particular day, if that makes sense. So anyway, October stories, October daily, October album, period. All right, so we're going to stick down the photo here in the bottom of the backside of the tombstone. That's the photo of my desk and then, or my planner. Then I can stick this back into the pocket there, and that is going to complete my layout. I hope you enjoyed seeing how this one came together. If you did, I would love a thumbs up on this video down below, and I hope you consider subscribing so you can see all of my future crafty content as well. I'll be back very soon with story number 5. In the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next